back to my channel. So for today, I have a product show and tell for you guys. So I was in a Chemist Warehouse today here in Australia, and I actually saw this palette in the wall in near the cashier. So the funny part with this one is that it is actually very similar to the Huda Beauty Neons, and Huda Beauty Neons actually retail for 58 or 59 bucks. So like honestly, it is so expensive. But this one particularly is only 5 bucks, and I was like, why not? And I actually checked some reviews and some swatching for this one, and they did like side by side swatch, and even I look like side by side, and they actually looks very similar. So it is a perfect dupe for this specific brand. So what is the brand? So the brand is the W7 Vivid palette. So this is the outrageous orange, and this is the punchy pink. Can you imagine that? They totally look like the Huda palette neon colors. Like you can see that, like very similar, just different name. Like honestly, they have another color, the neon green. It's like the neon green of Huda as well, and it does look similar. And personally, I tried swatching those before, and honestly, they just looks the same. And for for 5 bucks, you can't go wrong with it. And if you actually look at the palette anyway, personally, one of my negative thoughts about Huda's neon palette, the glitter is a bit like big and clunky, and then I don't felt that it actually properly sit in the lids. And that's the reason when I actually saw it at first, I'm not really sold on getting the palette. It is so expensive, and like it's neon, so you're not gonna wear neon colors every time. Some people might still do it, but for people that just like neutral colors, it's not worth to to actually splurge on it. So seeing this palette in Chemist Warehouse, it looks like similar and will have a similar color, neon colors when I apply it, why not just grab it? So let's talk about this specific palette, what type of palette it is. So if you actually check it in the back, it says press pigment palette. Huda is actually a press pigment palette as well, and I would say probably that's the reason in some swatches that you might actually see they actually similar, because in the end of the day, when you say press pigment, its pigment is color, so it just doesn't have any ingredients to it, not much, so basically it is color. So probably different supplier of the eyeshadow, what I call the powder is made of, but they're just the same, they're pigment basically. Meanwhile, there is a confusion about press pigment and an eyeshadow. People think because this is like this, it's automatic an eyeshadow. Yes, it is marketed like that, like it is like an eyeshadow, but it is a pigment palette. The difference between the two is the eyeshadow per se, they actually are color with a mix of other ingredients. Meanwhile, pressed pigment being pigment, it is actually pigment that is actually pressed to be a palette. So it's just really handy rather than get like carrying those powder form pigments. So they also have difference in application process, or how you can actually use it properly. So eyeshadow tends to have capability to actually be used from someone from beginner to professional, that you don't have problem blending it, or either the blending process will have that perfect graduation style that it performs, while the pigment or pressed pigment palettes or powder basically, they tend to have that capability. If you blend too much, it does disappear too much, or it does faster than your normal eyeshadow. The reason is, in sciencey term, pigment is actually bigger molecules. So when you actually, brush it off or blend it off, it actually does way faster than your eyeshadow, because eyeshadow has color and mixed with other ingredients that actually, that specific ingredient helps that to stays in your skin. Secondly, application process is like your best application way for a pigment to get that vibrant, bright color is actually using a dense brush. You can also spray the dense brush with like water or any sprayer stuff to wet it and be able to actually press in the pigment better. You can as well use primer, and I 100% suggest always use either primer or anything that a barrier in your lid when using a pigment palette or pigments, because pigments has tendency to actually stain your lid because they're color. So one rule of the thumb with pigment, to put even if it's light barrier to your eyelids, put that one and then go with your pigment colors. So that's actually my opinions and the things that I've learned. What's the difference from pigment or pressed pigments to an eyeshadow powders. So eyeshadows as well, being eyeshadow, the name itself, it is actually made for the eyes. So it's a powder made for the eyes. So that's why eyeshadow. Meanwhile, pigments, because like I said, it is actually pigment, it's just color. There is capability that has more chances that you might get an allergic reaction. And honestly, in my experience, I know few models that I actually work with that when I was having a chat with them, they actually says like, yeah, one makeup artist that they actually work with, they got allergic reaction and stuff and like that. And probably one of the biggest reason as well with that one specifically, if basically if your makeup artist is actually very hygienic with their kits, is because might be the palette that they're been using is pigment base, and sometimes some people really get really bad reaction with it. And even other like companies are really responsible to their clients. Sometimes their packaging, if it's a pigment palette, they normally put specific color, this is not safe for the eye. So just be aware when you're buying pigment or even shadows and stuff, always check the labels and know what color specifically is not safe and what is fine to actually really use directly in the face. So in summary, with pigments, if you want a vivid, strong color or brighter colors, your pigment is the best product to actually achieve those bright colors. If you're actually beginner, you can still use pigments, but yeah, sometimes if you want that strong pack color, it tends to have, you need to have that learning curve to actually pack those color in. Like I said, these are like $5. If you just want to try out pigment press colors, this is the perfect products to actually try out because they're very affordable. And if you are actually ready to actually invest in more famous brands or other pigment brands, at least you know that you can actually a little bit work with that specific type of palette or makeup. So there is my fair share of information about pressed pigments palette and eyeshadow palette difference, and I'll hope to see you in the next YouTube channel videos that I'll be making. And if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe in my page. And if you have a comments, negative, positive, whatever, please do put it down and I'll be reading it and I'll have a quick chat and say hi to you guys. So for now, enjoy your day and I'll see you in the next video.